is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. Talking another week of daily fantasy golf as we ease on into the fall swing here on the PGA Tour following the Ryder Cup last week. Plenty of talking points from that, and then we've got the Sanderson Farms Championship to break down this week. So to help you do that, you've got myself, Justin Van Zuiden, STL Cardinals 84, and Mr. Notorious, Derek Farnsworth, alongside. Noto, how you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Ryder Cup, man, looked like a snooze fest the first 2 days, and all of a sudden we had quite the pressure cooker on Sunday. So I had a lot of fun watching that. Obviously would have wished America could have got the job done, but yeah, had a lot of fun. How about you?
Yeah, it was certainly a surprise to see the Europeans get out to that big lead. Of course, Rory and Fleetwood kind of leading the charge there over the first couple days. You had the Victor Hovland, neck injury that's been off and on for him for a while. I did not know the rule about a player pulling out before the singles. That I would have figured that would be a forfeit, but alas, that would have made it really interesting if the U.S. would have had that extra half a point. But all told, they just got too far behind those first 2 days. And I don't know what it is with these last few Ryder Cups. I mean, any of the tandem pair formats, I mean, Europe has been dominating those sessions, and that's what's costing the U.S.
Yeah, for sure. And, everything is 2020 in hindsight. But, man, I can't believe some of the decisions Keegan made. Throwing out English and Morikawa on day 2 after they just got smoked was certainly questionable. And, I mean, I saw a thing from Data Golf. They were saying that those two paired together were statistically the worst pairing possible of any two U.S. people. And they went out 2 days in a row and just got smoked. And then you had some of the guys, supposedly there was an edge for the longer hitters to hit either even or odd, and Keegan had those all wrong. So I don't know. Didn't seem like he did a great job managing, but Team Europe just has everything down to perfection. I mean, they were talking about the hotel, everything that they changed with the hotel, from the bedding to the lights underneath the doors to the shampoos. I mean, they got this thing down to a science. And Rory said something about cohesion in a team event can give you like 40%, up to 40% better performance, something like that. I don't know. They got all these analytics and numbers, which I love to see, but it doesn't seem like US has the same chemistry as Team Europe.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's been evident the last couple times, but we'll see where that goes a couple years from now. And it's just it's a surprise that the U.S. was able to make that competitive on Sunday. Lots of narrow victories there that ended up making it closer than it was after those first couple of days. So I was also shocked at the idea of throwing Morikawa and English back out there, that the second morning session, and different day, same result with that one. But just the way Morikawa has been playing lately, and pairing those guys together didn't seem to make sense. And obviously it's you're going to say that in hindsight, but it was pretty obvious to everybody going into the second day that probably wasn't going to be the right move. And one match turns, that's a difference maker. And, you just, it's the elephant in the room, I guess, but Scotty Scheffler going 0-4 those first 4 rounds. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card either.
Yeah, he's kind of struggled in both of the Ryder Cups now. Did bounce back on Sunday, beat Rory McIlroy, which, was a big point at the time. Yeah, if Henley could have just made that putt to tie the hole on 18 to get the point for USA, I mean, things would have really got interesting, because I think there was only 3 matches after that, and we were up in 2 of the 3 at the time. So yeah, I mean, it could have been a ton of pressure on those last 3 Europeans, but yeah, I mean, it was a fun week. Bryson, I thought he was kind of the star of the show for America. I thought Xander played pretty well. Yeah, before this, everyone was saying, "Oh, you can't play Bryson because you don't know what you're going to get." But man, he was kind of the heart of the team.
Yeah, for sure. And he ended up, making a big comeback in his singles match there on Sunday. And again, the U.S. kind of fell just short there at the end of it. But that's the Ryder Cup in the rearview mirror for now. We've got quite a few fall swing events, which will feature some weaker fields. You're not going to have a lot of the premier guys, particularly this week. The guys that played in the Ryder Cup. I think there's just one in the field that was in the Ryder Cup last week. So a little bit of a weaker field here for the Sanderson Farms. which used to be like a secondary event that they'd host alongside a major or alongside a WGC back when those were a thing. But it's been a standalone event now for a few years, and seems to be kind of nestling into a niche here in this fall swing right after the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup. And we've got it again this week at the Country Club of Jackson. So what do we know off the top about the course and the setup this week?
Yeah, so it's a par 72, just over 7,400 yards. It's one of those courses that not super easy, although the last couple of years it has been one of the more easy tracks on the PGA Tour. It is a bomber's course for sure. Golfers hit driver on 82% of the tee shots last year, which was one of the highest marks on the PGA Tour. And that's kind of interesting because the fairways here are extremely narrow. They're like 28 yards wide on average, which is something you see at like Harbor Town. But there's not a lot of penalty for missing the fairways, and it's such a long course. We've seen the driver usage go up at this course every single year. So got to expect a lot of drivers are going to be hit again this year. So I'm focusing on off the tee, a little bit on distance. I think approach play is always going to be important. The greens are pretty easy to hit. They're pretty big too, so I'm not focusing too much on around the green play. And then you're going to have to make a lot of birdies. You're going to have to avoid some bogeys. I'm not putting a ton of stock into course history. I don't think this is one of those courses where you have to have a specific skill set. You kind of just got to get hot, make some putts, and strike the ball pretty well.
All right. The scores, the Bombers, par 5 scoring, particularly this week, all of them are reachable, I think, are good metrics to look at. And this score has been the winning score, 17 under or better, 10 straight years. So absent extreme weather, you're going to see plenty of scoring this week. We'll see how things go with the week after the Ryder Cup and a weaker field. You know, a lot of times embrace a little bit more variance in weeks like this, for sure. All right, with that, let's go ahead and dig in. And it's evident from the top. No offense to Akshay Bhatia and Kevin Yu, but they're the two most expensive golfers in the field, which I will wager has not happened before. And 10-1 is your most expensive salary on DraftKings. So the balanced builds tend to come together, I think, this week. Let's take maybe the top 5 here, which would be Bhatia, Yu, Minwoo Lee, Davis Thompson, and Rasmus Højgaard, who's the only player playing that also competed last week. Do you feel like you need to start with one of these top 5? Are you preferring a more balanced approach? What are you looking at this week?
Yeah, I think if we start with the top 6, then I'm definitely starting with one of them because I do like Thor Bjornsson quite a bit. I don't know. Akshay is the favorite, but the favorite is kind of a loose term this week because there's like 9 guys within 35-1 or less, and Akshay is only 20-1, so it's not like there's a huge odds difference there. I do think Akshay is probably the safest play of anybody up here, coming off of 4 straight top 30 finishes, made the cut here his last time out. One of the better iron players and one of the better putters. That's a good combo. Pretty much any course, but especially on an easy course like this. So I like Akshay. And then my second favorite is going to be Thor Bjornsson down at 9,500. Finished first in the PGA Tour University ranking, and then was up to the number 2 in the amateur rankings. Now he's a pro. He was T8 here last year. One of the better drivers of the ball in the field. Can make a ton of birdies. Over the last 18 months, he's first in the field in a birdie or better rate. So those are my 2 favorites, but no issue with Davis Thompson. I think he's a pretty good course fit here. I'm probably going to be underweight on Minwoo and Rasmus. No strong take there. What are you doing up here?
Yeah, I like starting with Thor Bjornsson myself. Super young talent. We started to see that upside a little bit more over the summer. Had a top 5 at the Rocket Classic, a couple other top 15s as well. He's only 24 years old. I mean, the talent is undeniable, and this is generally a glorified Korn Ferry Tour type of field. So the guys that have had success and are kind of rising stars, I do like them this week. Thompson would probably be my second favorite. Always tends to thrive on these weaker courses. The more scoreable venues are where we see Davis Thompson tend to excel the most. Has been a little bit more up and down over the past few months, but I think that might serve to keep ownership in check. Right now, we've only got his ownership at 15, which is quite a bit lower than where he was in some of those weaker field fall events. He's 3 for 3 at this tournament, making the cut. So, Thompson's probably number 2. Thor Bjornsson's probably number 1 out of that top group of 5 or 6. I really like the balanced builds this week. So Akshay and Yu and Minwoo, I'll probably be underweight on all three of them, just because I don't think they're necessary. It's just so wide open this week with the lack of a extreme favorite that it seems like they're a little bit overpriced relative to the other guys in this range. So Thor Bjornsson and Davis Thompson are probably the first two guys that I'll have in my primary player pool this week. And then we go down to the next part of the 9K range. So again, still 5 other golfers above 9K. JT Poston, Emiliano Grillo, Jacob Bridgman, the other Højgaard, Nikolai, and Rico Hoey there at 9K. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, but Hoey finally switched to a long putter. He was brutal with the putter. Like all the last couple years, it was always tee to green was great and then terrible on the greens. The switch to the long putter certainly isn't going to hurt the putting any. And he was basically right at field average at the Pro Tour, and he finished tied for 9th. So, I mean, that's basically a floor for Rico Hoey if he can stay at field average with the putter. And so at 9K with that switch, I like him as my other favorite in this range. What are you doing with the other guys above 9,000 here?
Yeah, we're in lockstep this week with Rico Hoey, a guy that one of the better ball strikers. I would argue he's a top 15 ball striker on the PGA Tour, maybe the best ball striker in this field. Over the last 6 months, he's second off the tee, 9th on approach, first tee to green. And you mentioned it, the putter switch. He lost 0.1 strokes putting last time out. It doesn't seem great, but his previous 4 events, he lost 28 strokes combined. So, yeah, if he's just level with the field with the putter, I think we're going to be in for some high finishes for Rico. So I'm with you on that one. Not too high on anyone else in the 9s. I probably don't want to play Grillo. I know he's been playing a little bit better, but it feels like we're paying a premium. Not the best course for Poston. Maybe Nikolai Højgaard. He does play well on driver-heavy courses. He's one of the best in the field. But I think for me, above 9K, it's just Rico, Akshay, and Thor Bjornsson.
I do like Grillo as well. I think he'd be the other guy I'd include in here. He's kind of an every year. Not a lot of guys are like regulars at this event, but he has been. He's made the cut for the last 5, a couple top 12 finishes in there, 2 of the last 3 years as well. If you sort by total strokes gained on this course over those last 5 years, he's 5th, I believe, overall. So never super exciting to play Grillo, but he did finish tied 4th at the Pro Tour as well with all 4 rounds under 70. So Grillo, the other guy, I'll include in my GPP pool up here. And again, you can play maybe 2 of those guys in the lower part of the 9Ks as part of a balanced build. So Thor Bjornsson, Thompson, Hoey, and Grillo are probably my selections there. All right, let's go ahead and move into the next range, the 8K range. We've got a few of the bombers in here. If you are of the belief that this is just a, bomb and gouge and rip it kind of course, you've got Cam Champ in here. You've got Clanton in here. He's pretty long off the tee. You've got Keith Mitchell, who's a bomber in here, surrounded by some younger guys, Alex Smalley, Clanton, who I just mentioned, and you've got Mackenzie Hughes in this mix as well. I think this is a really interesting range, depending on what you want to try to prioritize this week. Stumbling over my words here. But if you're all about the bombers, I mean, Cam Champ feels overpriced by quite a bit, but Mitchell, I could maybe get behind a little bit more, but upper part of the 8K range, anything standing out to you in here?
It is an interesting range. You got some bombers and you got 2 former champions of this event in Mac Hughes and Cam Champ. Man, these guys are all in such bad form. We haven't seen any upside from Clanton in a long time. Keith Mitchell doesn't have a top 20 since the start of May. I did tag him this week because my model always loves Keith Mitchell on these courses. So I'm going to take my chances, but I'm sure I'll be wrong because I'm always wrong on Keith Mitchell. I don't know what to do with Champ and Smalley. I mean, Smalley's been bad for quite a while. You're looking for a guy that's playing a little bit better in this range. Max Homa finally gaining off the tee again. I think he's made 4 straight cuts. He's been pretty good ball striking during that stretch. Probably has a little extra motivation after, watching the Ryder Cup. He was a pretty big part of these USA teams over the last few years. So I don't know. I think he might be my favorite play in this range, which is really gross, and he's not going to project well whatsoever. But when he's right, I mean, he's the best player in this field.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to hop aboard that bandwagon just yet. But everybody's going to make you feel a little bit nervy in this range. Like there's not a safe guy. Like right now we've got Cam Champ at 20% projected ownership, which is wild. So I don't really know if I want to play that. And like you mentioned, the other guys have really been struggling. I'll probably end up going back to Mitchell with you. Maybe we can just sink the Titanic together. I don't know. We haven't played him at the same week in a while, so maybe we'll try that and it'll kick him back into gear. I think I'm on Mitchell for better or worse this week, if that changes your mind.
Okay, I like it. I do like Sam Stevens. He's probably my favorite guy in the eights. Very good on long courses, very good on driver heavy courses. We saw him contend at Torrey Pines. He also has 2 other top 3 finishes so far this year. So at less than 10%, he's probably my favorite tournament play in the range. Then at the very bottom, Mark Hubbard, probably the safest cash game option in this range. He's just been solid. He's above the field average in all 4 of the strokes gained metrics. He's 3 for 3 here with a couple top 10s. So I think Hubbard's the easy play in the eights.
Yeah, he's the first guy in this 8K range that I would say qualifies as pretty safe. He's not quite as long as a lot of the other players that I'm targeting this week, but that's okay. I mean, he's got pretty good history here as well. A couple top 6 finishes the last 3 years. And, 8K feels pretty affordable relative to the rest of this field. If you look at last 36 rounds, he's second in this field in putting, and he's top 3rd in every strokes gained category. So that's pretty consistent across the board. A lot of these other guys you're going to see they're either struggling with their putter or around the green or what have you. So, I'm normally going for a lot of the bombers this week, but I will make an exception with Hubbard there at 8K. I think he's a pretty solid option in any format. If you're checking us out on the YouTube, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. We got lots of stuff going on. At RotoGrinders.com, you can get notifications whenever we go live. It won't be long, and it will be basketball season, hockey season again, right around the corner. So we'll be bringing you shows for those in addition to our weekly football content. And if you are interested in a snake draft, I want to start bringing these back again. But I know that we don't get as many live viewers kind of during the slower part of the year with the fall swing. So I'm not going to try to waste everybody's time at the end, but if we do get enough people that say you're interested, drop it in the YouTube chat. And if we get enough people saying it's a go, we can try to set one up at the end of the show tonight. But otherwise, we will just kick that can down the road again. All right. Anything else above 8K for you?
What are your thoughts on Hostler?
Yeah, I don't really have a strong take on Hostler. It is a surprise. If you look at his game log, he's only missed 1 cut since May, which spans about 12 events. We did see a little bit of upside during the later part of the summer, but a lot of those were in the weaker field events. You look at, he was T11 at the John Deere, T14 at the ISCO, which is an alternate field event, T4 at the Barracuda, which is an alternate field event. So, given the relative weakness of this field, he was runner-up here last year too, which I had forgotten about until I just looked at the leaderboard. I kind of like it. I wasn't considering him 10 minutes ago nearly as much as I am now when you just asked me about it. So I don't think that's bad, especially since the 8Ks are a little uncomfortable.
He's essentially your Harry Higgs.
There you go.
He's not.
We'll put him behind Hubbard,
sure,
probably behind Stevens, but I think I'd put him next.
Yeah,
in this 8K range.
Yeah, short game wizard, good course history. I don't love it, don't hate it.
Yeah, and this field again, we mentioned is pretty weak once you get towards the bottom. A lot of these fall swing events. It's not going to take us a long time to go through this field, so most of these will probably only take us about a half an hour to get through everything. And again, we'll have time for a snake draft if y'all want to get one put together. All right, let's go ahead and move into the 7K range here. This is where you start to get a lot of bunched up options. So let's talk about, say, 7,500 and up. We've got our old friend Jaeger in here. See some names, blast from the past: Seabez, Doug Gim, Benny On. Again, these guys are dipped down a little bit in terms of salary because their form maybe not quite as consistent as some of those other guys up near the top. But anything standing out to you in here?
Yeah, the big names we normally gravitate to are in such bad form. I mean, Jaeger has won top 30 since March, and he's been losing off the tee almost every single week. So that worries me. Benyon, I don't know, I could maybe get there. But my favorites here, Pearson Coody, he went on that run on the Korn Ferry Tour a few months ago. Ton of talent, kind of similar to Thor Bjornsson, but you're not paying a premium for him at 7,500. I like him quite a bit. And then I like Patrick Fishburne, another younger guy that he played great last fall, had a bunch of top 10 finishes, and then he struggled in the spring and summer. Now he's starting to play a little bit better again. He's made 4 straight cuts with T18 at the John Deere, T8 at the Wyndham. So I think his game's kind of trending back in the right direction. Those are my favorite 2. Is there anyone else you're looking at here?
Yeah, Coody was the guy I wrote up this week. Again, if you're considering this a glorified Korn Ferry Tour type of field, you mentioned that run that he went on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's in their stats last year, second in scoring average, or second in birdie average, third in scoring average, 7th in driving distance. So if you're in the bomber scorer angle this week, I mean, Coody absolutely fits that mold. He's been struggling to kind of put together that consistency at the PGA Tour level. Did have a third place finish at the 3M back in July. So I think eventually he's going to bust out of it. I think this is a great course for him to finally, show that ceiling potential here. So yeah, Coody at 7,500 is definitely my favorite. We are on board with a lot of the same guys this week. The rest, I mean, I'm going to have to throw some GPP darts. I tend to run a more narrow player pool than a lot of other people, but even that is difficult to try to fill up a little bit more this week. Jaeger would, if we go back 4 months, Jaeger would have been the obvious play at this salary, but we just haven't seen him do much of anything lately, compared to what we saw, say, a year ago at this time. Had missed 4 cuts in a row before, a relatively underwhelming finish at the St. Jude to start the playoffs. So I just haven't seen enough out of him lately. Jesper Svensson hasn't been playing that well on the DP World Tour. So, I might end up throwing a dart at one of these guys, but there's just no good form to be found. Maybe I just default to Gim and hope the putter cooperates this week, but I think Coody's definitely my favorite in this upper part of the 7K range.
Yeah, I like Coody, Fishburne. If you want a lower owned guy, we haven't projected for less than a 1% right now. William Mao won the ISCO.
I think he withdrew today.
No wonder we got such low ownership on him.
He's out.
Okay, I will take him out of my model. I was excited.
Not anymore. Yeah. Put the water on that flame. All right, let's move on to the lower part of the 7K range here. Tons of names. It's hard to find guys that you absolutely want to go out and roster. The guys that we've maybe seen a little bit more form from in recent months. We've seen Kuchar play well, but if you're targeting the longer hitters this week, he certainly ain't that. Victor Perez we've seen pop a few times. Schmid, I think, is coming out okay in our projections. Norgard Moeller has gotten some attention in some of we haven't seen him a ton, but when we have seen him over here, and there's maybe 30 to 35 golfers priced between 7K and 7,400 this week. So that is going to really spread out the ownership. Right now, in terms of the chalk, we've got 16% ownership on Taylor Montgomery, 11% on, and I think Montgomery always tends to be just a little overvalued by our projections. I'll take the under on that number. We've got Perez at 11, Kuchar at 10, Kevin Roy at 12. He's at 7,100, but no, massive chalk in here by any means. What are you looking at in here?
Yeah, kind of ugly, but the guy I love, Kevin Roy. If you look at his numbers, man, he's top 50 in this field in all 4 of the strokes gain metrics. He's been playing great, coming off of a T7 finish his last time out. So I like Kevin Roy quite a bit at 71. Don't mind Hayden Springer at 7,200. He doesn't play a ton of golf, but number 1 in this field in strokes gained on long par 72s. over the last 3 years. Don't mind Victor Perez, even though I wish his ownership was a little bit lower. And then Ricky Castillo, he's been playing some pretty good golf, especially in these weaker events. I think he's probably one of my favorite lower-owned guys in this range.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be guys in this range that go under-owned that are going to finish inside the top 20. So if you can find somebody down here that you feel pretty good about, that's at like 5% ownership. I don't hate it. Like somebody like Lee Hodges would be a guy that I maybe sprinkle into my GPP pool. Again, hasn't been great lately, but not a lot of these guys have, and that's why they're priced down here. So Hodges would maybe be one guy. Hayden Springer will probably carry a little bit more ownership than what we have for him for right now. I'm fine with Perez, and then I'm with you on Roy. He's the guy that I wrote up as the last golfer in my GPP article this week. So, when we partner with the rabbit hole over at Betsperts, and when I put all my stats that I was looking at this week, Roy came out ninth. Overall, he's top 40 in every strokes gained metric over the last 36 rounds, top 40 in this field, which I don't think anybody priced under him that's top 50 in all of those metrics together. So don't mind looking at Roy. I think he's, with the putter now kind of coming around a little bit more, I think he's pretty safe. Doesn't have a good course history here, but he's a better golfer now than what he was those past couple times. We did get a question from Playmaker Workbench asking about Victor Perez, if he's a good value in there. And I can't remember what event it was that we talked about him quite a bit, maybe the Wyndham. He did play at the Procore and missed the cut, but made the cut last event on the DP World Tour, finished 32nd there. So, I know a few weeks ago you were on board with Perez. Are you sticking with it, or are you jumping off?
Yeah, I like him. Anytime you get him on a course where you don't have to scramble that much, that's kind of where I want to play him. He's good off the tee, really good on approach, and he's a good putter. He's just not a very good scrambler. So I like him this week. I'm hoping that 11% comes down a little bit, but I think he's a strong play.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I don't think scrambling is going to be that huge of a deal this week because this course is so scoreable. If you don't have this in front of you, because I don't, but do you have anything that shows like the ranking of this course for green and regulation percentage, or just the numbers?
It was at 70% last year. Saw that on the rabbit hole.
70%, I would wager, is
way above tour average. So.
Yeah, well above tour average. I'd say that the average course is probably in that, maybe 62 to 65 range. If I had to guess, again, I'm not looking at any data, I'm spitballing, but I don't think scrambling is going to be super important this week. Right. You want guys that are going to be on the greens and making birdies.
And from the fairway, 83% green regulation rate.
Yeah, and there's just not a ton of trouble along, this course. It's not like there's double bogeys waiting around every turn. So, and that was, what did you think, by the way? I meant to ask you this when we talked about the Ryder Cup. What did you think of the way, they basically set up Bethpage Black as a muni? That was maybe a little extreme, but they set it up much easier than what it would be for a major. And I think people thought that would play into the U.S. style, but the Euros were out there making birdies on every hole the first couple of days. I think that kind of backfired.
I think maybe 2 or 3 Ryder Cups ago, it was probably a good strategy because they had a lot of the more accuracy guys. But now they have just as many bombers as we do. And they were making a bunch of birdies from the rough a couple of those days, man, they were getting up and down for some crazy places off the tee. So I don't think it helped them, but I don't think it hurt them either. I think ultimately they just didn't make enough putts.
All right. Well, in any case, should be a fairly easy course this week. Does seem to be pretty quiet there in the chat, but if you got questions, throw them in there. We'll probably skip on the snake draft here, and we'll, like I say, make it nice and tidy here. Anything else above 7K that we've missed?
That's it for my player pool.
All right. If I mentioned earlier, sorting this event by strokes gained at this tournament, the number one golfer in strokes gained at this tournament over the last 5 years is one Henrik Norlander. who has gained 43 strokes over field average the last 5 years, 3 top fives, T24 and a T28. So 5 straight top 30s. We have not seen a ton. Norlander used to be a guy that I would always target, man. Give me some cheap value with Norlander. But if you look at since May 1st, his best finish is 45th, and that was the first event of May. There has not been a top 50 on Henrik Norlander's results listing since May. Not a top 50. I'm not saying top 10, top 20, top 25. Not a top 50 since May. So this is the ultimate course history versus current form debate. I'm not sure I can go there. But I just felt like I'd throw the nugget out there anyway. If I had to pick a couple guys under 7K, I suppose Chris Ventura's grading out pretty well in our projections. He is fairly long off the tee. The overall stats aren't that great. Chandler Phillips is the guy that kind of popped to me in terms of stats, but nobody great down here. You've got Norlander for course history. Ventura is kind of my YOLO guy. Phillips is kind of the stat-based guy. And that's about all I got under 7K. What do you got?
I was just going to say with Norlander, he no top 50s, but he's only missed one cut during that stretch. I mean, he's making
that's remarkable
and falling apart every weekend.
Between 50th and only 65 and ties make the cut these days. So a lot of times, sometimes there does 75 or 80 golfers make that top 65 and ties, but like 59, 52nd, 51st, 57th, 78th, 72nd, 62nd, that's crazy.
It's crazy. I'm
probably not going to T50. There you go. Maybe T40 because the course history is so good.
Yeah, probably not going to play him myself. It's my duty to announce when the Panda's in the field. Norman Zhang. He's 6,300. He hasn't played in like 5 months.
I was going to say the last time he was in a field, he ended up ducking out after we did the show.
Yep. WT missed cut in his last 3 starts. So, but he is a bomber. If I'm playing anybody down here for real, it's going to be Chan Kim. Good on long par 72s, good on driver heavy courses, T33 here last year. And he's a bad putter, but everything else is good. I mean, he's top 50 off the tee, top 40 on approach, and top 40 or top 20 around the green. So he's just a bad putter. Everything else is pretty good. I think that's a good discount for a guy that could finish in the top 20.
Yeah, don't mind him either. Otherwise, it's pretty much a black hole down here. I mean, you got guys that veterans that are kind of just hanging on, or guys we really haven't seen anything from. Gordon Sargent got some buzz last year when he was first started on tour, and it hasn't really done anything since. So I'm probably not messing around with anybody else down here, and it's a pretty weak field. So we can probably go ahead and put a wrap on it for this week. Thanks, as always, to everybody for watching. Next week, I will be traveling. There'll be a sub in for me next week. I'll be traveling for work next week, so I'll be out. But we'll have a sub in here and are planning to do a show for all of these fall swing events. I believe we have events the next 3 weeks. So we'll be here keeping you covered for each and every golf tournament. Until then, Noto, anything else?
Good show as always. Good luck this week. And yeah, these are the times when you want to do a little bit more diving into your research because nobody else is paying attention. Everyone's watching baseball, football. So this is the time to really get it for the true golf grinders out there.
Absolutely. So we'll be back. Well, I won't be here, but we'll have a show for you next week for the Bay Current Classic. Until then, good luck in all your contests this week, everybody. Thanks to Steve for producing behind the scenes for us, as always. Thanks to Noto. I'm Justin. We hope you all have a great week. See you later.